Chief of Police and the Sheriff of Rice County. We had Andy Bohlen, Troy Dunn with us this morning. We certainly appreciate their stopping by. We're going to visit today a little bit about being safe this holiday weekend, and we might touch on how much they coordinate with each other. Their departments have to, of course, get along and work together on a lot of different events. Earlier this week there was a standoff at a house here in Faribault, and I know both of the organizations were working together on that, so we'll probably touch a little bit on that as well here on our AM Minnesota program today. But we do appreciate their stopping by to visit with us here this morning. I guess first of all, Troy, the first thought in my head, Labor Day weekend, is it's time to hit the lakes.
Yeah, the lakes and the roads this weekend with Labor Day. Everybody's wrapping up their summer, and so we're asking that everybody be safe out there, make good choices, and you know, we don't want a repeat of the 4th of July and have a drowning incident or anything like that, and we want drivers to remain safe on the roadways, get to their destinations, and have fun once they get there, but make good choices. Don't drive once you're consuming alcoholic beverages, and that includes the boats. And we unfortunately have seen that a couple times this summer where people are indulging out there on the lake, and then they forget that they have to operate that boat to get back, and people tend to make some poor decisions and try some risky things when they're impaired, and so we just ask that people make good decisions so we don't have to have that negative contact with you.
I don't know how you are able to get on, because we have so many lakes in our area. It's a good thing, but it's not necessarily a good thing for your department.
Right, yeah, we have 23 lakes within the county, and so we'll have 4 Water Patrol deputies out there this weekend, and some of our volunteers, I'm sure, will be out there a little bit, being visible, being proactive, making sure that people have their life preservers and are making good choices. So, you know, we want people to have fun. It's too bad summer's already over, but we say it every year. It just goes in a, you know, snap of a finger. So we just are looking to avoid those tragedies and on the highways and on the lakes and rivers. And you know, I know people are out kayaking, see more and more of that as kayaking is becoming popular, and so be careful on the rivers and watch out for those logs and the quick rapids, and just be prepared for everything.
At least a water patrol is not something you have to worry about, Chief, but obviously the roads are an issue.
Yep. Good morning, Gordy. Certainly we don't have the water patrol and have to deal with all the lakes the sheriff has to, but we do have, you know, we are concerned, of course, this time of year at the end of summer. You know, everybody's going back to school, there's get-togethers, reunions, kind of the last celebration of summer, and certainly a long holiday weekend is going to bring out not only the hot weather, but might bring out some alcoholic cold beverages. So people want to be safe, plan ahead, you know, keep somebody in your group that's not drinking to get people around and get them home safe.
I'm glad you brought up the school safety too, because you got to see those school buses. I've noticed around town, I live over by Lincoln Elementary School on 7th Street, and they're dialing up the area, you know, they're repainting the crosswalks so that people can see the white on the road.
Yep, everybody's gearing up for school, and it'll be very shortly here. We're going to have buses stacked up along the road as kids get off the bus at school, and kind of, you know, certainly some intersections in schools have some backed up traffic, so watch for those kids darting in between buses and cars as parents drop them off.
Yeah, they're pretty exciting. You know, you remember the first day of school, Troy. It wasn't that long ago for you.
Right. Good one, Gordy.
Yeah, right. Can I say?
But it was fun, and yeah, my son actually started last Monday, and I took the last first day of school picture as he started his senior year with his backpack on, and I reflected back and looked at that one I took when he was in kindergarten, and boy, how quick they grow up, and you know, so yeah, we want people to enjoy school and have fun.
All right, on in Minnesota today, it's the chief law enforcement officials here from the city of Faribault, Chief Bohlen and Sheriff Dunn from Rice County are with us today. Wanted to talk a bit about safety on this Labor Day weekend. The chief brought up some bus safety, and some people every year don't obey the stop arms, right?
They don't obey the stop arms, and people are in a hurry. You know, everybody, you know, you may not even go into the school where the congestion's at. You're just trying to get through the area, but you got to look for kids darting between buses. Parents are in a hurry sometimes to get to work, so they're dropping their kids off, you know, a little farther away from the school. So you got a lot of kids running to one location. So look out for that. School bus stop arms is always a concern for us. You know, and sometimes we get crazy complaints about people passing while the kids are in the crosswalk. The stop arms out, even get people trying to zip around buses on the right-hand side. So we don't like to take those calls, and we certainly want to have the kids get to school safe.
Yeah. So obey that. When you see the stop arm out, stop. Right.
Right, right, and it's a serious offense if you are doing that and there are kids in the out of the bus. It makes it a gross misdemeanor if they're off the bus. Otherwise, it's a misdemeanor offense. So it's not good on your driving record and not good in your pocketbook. But again, it comes down to safety. We just don't want to see anybody get hurt.
And not just at the crosswalks either in town. You deal with that in the country as well.
Yeah, yep. The buses are out there, and you know, in some locations where they're over a hill crest or something, you'll see some signage to warn you that buses are going to be possibly stopping. But you always have to be alert, you know, early in the morning and in the afternoon, and even when some of those kids are going home at noontime for half-day kindergarten. So just always be paying attention, and don't try to, it's kind of like trying to beat the stop arm at a railroad crossing. Just don't do it. It's not worth it. So.
Is there a DWI saturation going on this weekend?
And we've got TZD saturation throughout Rice County through the holiday. And just to go back quick to what the sheriff said about the stop arm stuff as well, you know, it's common sense. You're behind a bus, the stop arm comes out. You're facing a bus, of course you're going to stop. But, you know, you've got strange intersections and strange bus locations where the buses will stop and there'll be roads or streets coming in at an angle. Just pay attention, because if you assume you don't have to stop, that's when that kid with the backpack starting behind you to try to beat the bus.
Yeah. So the saturation effort statewide?
Statewide, yep. Correct. Towards zero death, we've got some safe roads. Our coalition and our law enforcement in the county are putting together a group of folks to go out and do a saturation. We know alcohol will be flowing this holiday weekend.
Has it made a difference, Troy?
You bet it. Yes, it has. We've seen our DWI arrests go down. We've seen our alcohol-related crashes go down. You know, and like it says the name, towards zero death. We're trying to get that as close to zero as we can within the county, and you know, we're glad to see it trending that way, but we can't stop, because as soon as we stop, then the numbers seem to rise. So we keep doing these efforts, and you know, most of these crashes are caused by speed, inattentive driving, impaired driving, and again, it comes down to making good decisions as a driver.
Yeah, last weekend I made a couple of trips up St. Cloud Way for state amateur baseball. We had the Lakers, we had the Bears. At the state amateur baseball tournament, I couldn't get over the number of people I saw on their cell phones. Mm-hmm. In the metropolitan area where you got traffic, you know, all over the place. I don't know how you could do that.
You know, and it's illegal to be texting and driving, and the reality is it's out there all the time. I mean, I think that's become, you know, one of our primary problems now with the accidents is the inattentive driving, because everybody thinks, well, I can just look down for a second, answer this quick text, look at this quick email, and all it takes is a second before you look up and you've rear-ended somebody stopped in traffic or hit somebody crossing the road, and you just got to put the phone away when you're driving.
No, no question.
My wife commented yesterday, she just got back from a business trip in New England area, and she said most of those states are, you cannot use your cell phone when you're operating. So, you know, she's like, it's actually kind of nice because you really can focus. When she comes back here and she's heading up to the metro area, you know, her phone rings, she answers it, you know, and you know, but she's like, out there I know it's illegal, I put it away, I shut it off till I get there and deal with it then. And you know, I don't know if I think maybe someday we'll see it here in Minnesota, but it still will come down to the legislature wants to push it.
Right, so just to clarify, you said texting was illegal, but you can be on your phone.
You can still talk on your phone. There's always discussion about that, using that, and you know, people sometimes use the hands-free, which is probably better. I've got that in one of my vehicles as well, but you know, you're still not focused on what you're doing when you're driving, when you're on the phone.
I ran a stop sign once.
Yeah.
This is confession, guys. Up in Northfield, I was on the phone with my brother, and we were talking about something that was something to do with my mom, I think, and her care or whatever, and I just totally blew through the stoplight.
Yeah.
And just what you said.
It'll
your
happen.
focus.
You're not paying attention, and you've got other things on your mind, and that distraction can take you away from what you should be focusing on.
And I remember saying to him, "Oh my God, I just blew a stoplight. I got to get off the phone." I said.
Well, we better hope Chief Nelson's not listening. He might mail
Oh,
Gordy a ticket,
what's the
right?
statute of limitations on running a stoplight?
When did you do this, Gordy?
It was a few years ago.
That was probably just before that. You're probably okay.
Oh, yeah, I was sweating there. But it can happen.
It can. No. But we've all been in those situations where, we drop something, people eating in the car, people putting makeup on, we've seen it all, and a lot of these crashes are happening, and they reach down to grab something, and off the road they go, and they overcorrect, and so yeah, you still have to remember what's your primary focus as the driver is making sure you get to your destination safely and you're paying attention to everything around you. And you could be the best driver in the world, Gordy, but if somebody else is out there not doing something good and you're not paying attention, then that's when that crash is going to happen, and you could have avoided it possibly had you been paying better attention. So.
That's right. Well, officers have to be on their phones all the time, right, in your vehicles?
Yeah, that's always a quandary. People talk about, there's an exception for law enforcement, and there are particular times when law enforcement has to be on the phone. I think law enforcement overall could be better as an industry to pull over and talk. There are sometimes when there's live things going on or things in progress, or you're trying to get live up-to-date information on maybe a crime of violence that's occurring at the time, and it's vital to be talking while you're driving, kind of multitask, but it's still not a great idea. Anytime, we encourage our officers, I'm sure the sheriff does as well, if you don't have to be on the phone, pull over and talk, pull into a parking lot, unless it's an in-progress call of violence where you've got to get up-to-date information, you got to talk to that person that's relaying that info, just pull over and talk.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, it's a good example for us,
right.
Other people.
Correct. And if I'm talking to somebody, or an officer is talking to somebody about an in-progress call, and you're trying to get information about officer safety, and you're trying to get there as quick as you can, as safely as you can, gather as much intel as you can, the people that are driving by the officers, they don't know that we're talking to, so the perception out there is, well, the cops are on their phones, so there's kind of a balance there. Again, we tell our people, if you don't have to be on it while you're driving, pull over and talk.
I was just telling somebody earlier this morning, last night I almost hit a young man walking a baby in a stroller. It was dark. I left the station here last night, driving down 6th Street. It was a non-lighted intersection. The stroller is dark. He's wearing dark clothing, and I didn't see him until I was about halfway through the It was scary, let me tell you.
Yeah, anything can happen. That's the problem. I think we all become accustomed to, especially our regular paths that we travel every day, that, well, there's nothing there. I drive this every day, and that's when you get into trouble too. You got that car that's stalled, that's sticking out a little bit into the roadway, and all of a sudden now you're rear-ending a car in the dark that is not supposed to be there. We don't know what's ahead of us. That's why you've got to focus on the road.
Yeah, this appeared to be an older stroller. It didn't have any reflectors on it.
Mm-hmm.
As I mentioned, he was wearing dark clothing, and it was a dark stroller. It had a flashlight or something,
I saw a couple bikers last night, and driving down the road, and I've got one biker approaching me in my lane, and then one bike going with me in my lane, which is how you're supposed to do it. And then they come to meet each other, and of course the one swerves out into the traffic lane, and I've got to slow down. And so we just always need to remind ourselves, what are the rules for bikers and pedestrians, which side of the road you should be on, and always be attentive. Even though it might not be your fault, if they're wrong, you're still going to feel bad if you hurt someone or kill someone. So.
Yeah, well, I had a bicyclist on the way to work one morning not stop for the stop sign. I was watching him. He just coasted right through it. You have to stop at stop signs when you're on the bike.
I had that happen on my way here this morning.
Well, there
where
you
a young
go.
lady was on the wrong side of the road, darted out right across in front of me, right on 4th Street there, and I'm like, you got to stop for those. That's how people end up getting hurt. So.
Do I have a ticket?
No, I just said you got to pay attention to those stop signs. You're still required to stop. You can't dart across the roadway. Because people, again, they're not expecting it. Drive defensively. Assume that the worst can happen every time you come to an intersection, and assume that somebody, that's kind of how you have to drive, especially people that operate motorcycles. You almost have to be under the assumption that, you know, what could go wrong will go wrong, and make sure you're making eye contact, and you know what everybody's doing and that they're paying attention.
Well, I'm glad you brought up the motorcycles too, because you know, Sheriff, we've had more motorcycle deaths already this year than all of last year.
Yeah, it's, I heard the numbers from the Department of Public Safety, and that we had already bypassed that number from last year. And it's sad, and you know, we've had a couple of crashes within the county as well, none fatal yet, but we hope that that doesn't happen. But yeah, we're seeing more and more people out there doing it. You know, we had the ride last weekend from the Signature that was in support of the Hope Center, and they had about, I believe, about 90 riders that did a 190-mile ride together. And you know, the thing I preach to them is, you know, be careful. One person makes a mistake, it could cause an issue, and especially on a motorcycle, you really have to drive defensively. Don't expect that that person's going to see you. And you know, I've had them pull out in front of me on the motorcycle and stop them, and they're like, well, I didn't know you were a police officer. Or, well, it doesn't matter, you still pulled out and failed to yield. And you know, fortunately for me, or unfortunately for them, I can give them a ticket and hold them accountable, but that doesn't always happen. And you know, a lot of times it ends in a significant crash, and we see a lot of pretty significant injuries when you're on a motorcycle as well, because you don't have a lot to protect you like the motor vehicles with the airbags and seatbelts. So,
and just to refresh our memories, Chief, and if people are in a crosswalk, you're supposed to stop, right?
Correct. Correct. Yep. I mean, you know, we expect, you almost, again, you have to assume that if somebody's coming up to a crosswalk, you should be slowing down and letting those folks cross. Again, make eye contact, wave them across, be polite, let them get across. The reality is, you know, sometimes people at a crosswalk, you know, you can't always make the assumption either when you're crossing the road that people are going to stop for you.
I can tell you, I almost got hit a couple of times. You're right, you can't assume.
No, you can't assume anything. I've got a crosswalk right next to our house with a big old flashing sign, and I tell my boys, don't ever assume that people are going to stop just because you're standing there with the flasher going. So make sure that people in the crosswalk also make eye contact with the driver, so they acknowledge that you're there and they'll stop.
And Andy Bohlen is the chief of the Faribault Police Department. Troy Dunn is the sheriff of the Rice County Sheriff's Office. They're in studio today to remind us to be safe this Labor Day weekend. School starting next week. How exciting is that? You you both have kids going off to school.
Yeah. It's exciting, and I know the most kids are anxious to get back and see their new teachers and getting back into the routine of school. And the kids that are in special, you know, like band and orchestra and sports, they're excited for that. And you know, it's an exciting time, and one that goes really fast, so you have to make sure you enjoy those times.
It does go in a blink, doesn't it?
It does, and with school starting comes a new batch of fresh drivers. I was telling the sheriff, I've got one that just turned 16, and we're dealing with our first driving the car to school. So with that school safety that we talked about with the buses, there's also a whole new group of 16-year-olds that are going to be behind the wheel for the first time.
You put your son in bubble wrap, Andy?
Yeah, bubble wrap and 4 seat belts and a big Humvee. I don't know.
Yeah.
You're always going to worry about them.
There is a law, though, that was passed not too long ago, that you can only have so many passengers in a vehicle when you're 16. Right?
Correct. You can have one other. Correct.
Only one other?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the graduated driver's license program, and that's one thing actually we're going to talk about later today with our TZD, Rice County Safe Roads Committee, that you know, we've been teaching the Point of Impact, which is a driver's ed program that we do where parents are required to come in and listen to a 90-minute presentation by the driver's ed instructor and law enforcement. And you know, the key thing that parents need to understand is their kids look to them for advice and guidance, and they're watching what they're doing. So we preach lead by example, you know, give them clear guidelines, give them clear consequences if they break or, you know, disobey those guidelines. And you know, we're seeing this, we feel this is very successful, and you know, it's glad it's being done in Faribault, it's being done in Northfield, Waterville, Elysian, Morristown, and then Tri-City United. We go and work with those driver's ed instructors, and it's been a great thing. So it saves them 10 hours of driving that their child has to do by attending that class. So it's a good thing, because we find out that if you add for each additional person, your risk of crash doubles, you know, triples, quadruples every time you add another passenger, because those kids are focusing on what else is going on instead of learning to drive and being safe.
Well, we've been there. I mean, I remember as a kid, didn't have such a law. My car was usually full of other kids, you know what I'm saying?
Well, the kids look to you, like the sheriff said, you know, if you're that parent that's driving with a sandwich in one hand, a cell phone in the other, and driving with your knee, your kid's paying attention.
Yep.
Set a good example. Pay attention to what you're doing.
Yeah. Don't have the sandwich in one hand, the cell phone in the other, and drive with your knee.
No. Not good.
Not good. You guys really seem to get along very well.
It's not an act, Gordy. I actually like the sheriff.
No,
we got good relationships.
No, you're
with our
both good
departments.
guys. You're both good guys. I can see where you'd get along. But that's not always the case. You've been in how many different departments?
I've been in 3, and chief here for 3 years. And one thing I can say about Rice County is we've got great relations with all the chief law enforcement officers. You know, we do a lot of things together. We partner up on things, cost share on things, and when there's a significant incident, we all come together. It doesn't really matter if you're wearing blue, brown, or maroon. Everybody's there to do the same job, and you know, I don't think there's a lot of ego at any of those things. We just figure out how to get the job done and do it as safely as we can.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I mean, the police department in Faribault helped us incredibly with the Chelsea Martinez case, and you know, our Cannon River Drug and Violent Offender Task Force is made up of Faribault, Rice County, Northfield officers, and then we also have the ATF agent on there. So Andy and I hear from BCA agents, FBI agents, wow, you guys have a great working relationship here, and we've always known that, but it's good to see that it reflects that way, and hopefully it'll spill over, because yeah, you can go 60 miles one way or the other, and the sheriff's office and police departments aren't working with one another. They're their own entity, and turf battles, and we can't have that here. It doesn't make for a good working relationship. So I can't say enough about, you know, we have great people that we have working for us, and they work well together, and I think if we show that we believe in working together, our troops are going to do the same thing, and State Patrol is there for us. You know, a lot of people say, I can't believe a state trooper can come to my house for this, or they can stop me in the city. Well, everybody has jurisdiction anywhere in the state, no matter what color your uniform is. So it's not like the old Dukes of Hazzards where you had to stop at the city limits or the county line if somebody did something bad.
So the State Patrol can stop me on 7th Street here in Faribault when I'm heading home from work if I happen to be speeding.
Yes.
Or if you blow another stop sign, Gordy.
Yeah. Stop light.
Stop light.
Stop light. That's even worse. Don't you think?
Yeah. Well, I think they're both bad. It
Yeah,
depends
they're
if
both
there's
bad.
cars there, I guess.
I mean, with a red light right in front of me, and I just blew right through.
Yeah.
Thank God nobody was coming in either direction.
Yeah.
But it was a lesson that I needed to learn, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Even I have a hands-free phone, try to stay off of it, or, as you mentioned, pull over, do your conversation, then continue driving when you're done.
Yeah, pull over, pull into a parking lot, pull under the shoulder if it's safe to park and talk.
No phone calls, that important.
No, and you know, the problem is there's all kinds of videos out there you can Google about texting that, you know, somebody has died, there's a result of texting, and these are good people that just plain didn't make the right choice. And the minute somebody dies as a consequence of not paying attention, it's pretty obvious watching those videos and looking at those folks that it wasn't worth it. So they're pretty powerful statements by folks that have been involved in those things.
No better example of cooperation maybe than earlier this week when you had the standoff here in town over on 5th Street.
Yeah, we woke some good folks of Faribault up early in the morning with our loudspeaker on a armored vehicle and some lights and sirens, and we were trying to get a guy out of a house at the 500 block of 1st Street Northwest and involved in the Rochester homicide, but it was resolved wonderfully. I'm very happy with everybody that showed up. I mean, again, the sheriff indicated that we've got great working relations, but we also share an emergency response team, kind of a SWAT team, and our folks were there along with Dakota County Mutual Aid Assistance Group, their SWAT team, because they've got some special equipment, and we worked well together with Rochester detectives who were following this guy, and we were able to put him down in Faribault, and you know, even though it was a early morning for both the sheriff and I, we were both out there, you know, the chemicals they launched through the house were able to force the bad guy out the front door, and they got him in custody without incident, so it was nice that nobody got hurt.
And from what I'm reading, this 19-year-old Rochester lad has been in some other trouble.
I don't know Rochester's history with him, but I know the incident in southeast Rochester that occurred. You know, one person died and there were others that were injured as well. So clearly not a regard for human life.
Do we know why?
I've not heard that, other than he had a connection in Faribault. I think it was more of an acquaintance that he had made here with somebody.
And he probably thought this would be a good place to lay low for a while.
Yeah.
I believe that's what his intention was. But good police work by Rochester and our agents with the drug task force that worked with him, and they were able to track him down and physically pinpoint him here, and it worked well.
And then you brought in this Bearcat, is that what it is?
Yeah, the Dakota County MAG team, or their SWAT team, they've got a thing called a Bearcat, and it's an armored vehicle.
Getting one, yeah.
You know, they're, you know, now in today's world, everybody seems to be kind of on the bandwagon. Law enforcement shouldn't have these military pieces of equipment and these heavy, scary looking things, but the reality is we get a couple incidents a year in Faribault and throughout Rice County where you've got somebody with a weapon or a homicide suspect, and they're not wanting to go to prison, and guess what? You've still got to get close enough to either extract people that are, you know, could be innocent bystanders and hostages, and you've got to get some kind of communication established to deal with the problem, and that's the device that we used the other night. It worked great. They pulled right up on the front lawn, broke out some windows, lit it up with spotlights, had the loudspeaker going. The person that was given the commands to get them to come out peacefully, they clearly said, you know, we don't want to hurt anybody, we don't want you to get hurt, we want you to come out and surrender. And after a couple hours, we were able to get them out of the house. But that kind of equipment is vital because you've got somebody who you know has been involved in an incident with a firearm, and you got to have some kind of protection for your law enforcement.
Well, it's nice that you guys can share that with some other, because it's very spendy, you know.
$300,000, I think, is the starting price, and that's without a lot of the add-ons. So
Without the cup holders, I think.
yeah.
Really? That's another $100,000 for the cup holders.
My guess is another 100.
All right, that concludes today's edition of AM Minnesota Cup Holders and the Bearcat.